Greetings to you all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to network and to just share the little knowledge that I have. Let me start by greeting my fellow panelists. I think our pastor is left, eh? The Levites, our fathers in the house, our mothers, the youths, the teenagers in Sunday school. It's been a while since I've had a chance to speak to such a full range of demographics. Yeah, so I'm just here to share the little knowledge that I have regarding quality. And I'm not a man of too many words, but with the little knowledge that I have, I guess it should help impact someone's way of doing things, especially my fellow musicians and the artists themselves, and even anyone who is involved in stage management. Because like the previous speakers were emphasizing on, it's all about being a brand. And we have many brands that sell many different products out there, but you'll find that certain brands are more distinguished than other brands. You can get bread being sold at a wide range of prices. But what makes the expensive loaf of bread expensive, and why are people still buying it? And what makes the cheaper loaf of bread cheaper? So why would someone opt to buy a loaf of bread for, say, 30 rands and not 20 rands? What is making that bread 30 rands, and who are the customers? So similarly, you'll find that in all the avenues of businesses that we do, including sound and being musicians, you need to give yourself value. And that value can only come from you distinguishing yourself from the next musician or from all the other musicians based on your quality. Because you find that whoever is going to hire you as an artist, or whoever is going to hire your service as a sound engineer, is going to measure the quality that you are going to provide. Because you find that out there are certain people who are willing to pay whatever amount as long as the quality is met. And those are the clientele that you must target, depending on your brand. Because you find that with certain brands, they are actually willing to sell at a cheaper price, but target volumes. For example, going back to the example I gave of bread. You can get a cheap loaf of bread. I think one of the most popular companies that manufactures bread here is Sasco, right? So you can get a loaf of bread from Sasco, and that is the common type of bread. You find it in almost all the supermarkets, and it has got its own price tag. I think I can just say it's an average price, but I think they push volumes in order to get profit. And then you get, let's say, a loaf of bread from, let's just say, let's say Albany. Albany has these all grain, healthy types of loaves that can go as far as 40 rand. And still, you might find that the profits that they make from there might match what Sasco is making. So it depends on you as a brand. Or let me use another example maybe. Let me use, let's say, Rolls and Royce as a car manufacturer. And then Toyota on the other end. Toyota is a good car, definitely. It's very common. They push volumes. That's why you find that Toyotas are very popular. They are very common. And then on the other hand, there's this other manufacturer that only sells, let's say, 100 units per year. But they are selling those few numbers to a certain clientele that is willing to pay whatever amount for that one car. So let me bring it back home to us as musicians and people who are doing sound or who are involved in this ministry. I'm just generalizing my conversation because you also get secular musicians in this space. Yeah, but the language is the same. Or maybe before I go there, let me actually say, the one other thing is that I'm going to speak in general because sometimes when we are in church, we tend to, let me say, church lies everything. Or sometimes we need to speak with a business mind. Because even biblically, you find that certain principles apply. If it's business, it's business. If it's spiritual, then it's spiritual. So let's not get confused there. So I'm going to speak as a business person. Today I'm coming in my capacity as someone who owns a music business. And you will find that when I started, I'm self-taught, and I started that company by myself with very little knowledge. I didn't go to school for it. So you'll find that when I started off with just this huge desire to learn. I would go to music shops just to check what is out there. I would go to where people were setting up stages just out of interest. I would come up here, let's say, mingle with the Levites when they're doing what they're doing, just to see what was happening here, with zero knowledge of what this thing is that is stepping down here. What that thing is, that is connected there, all these components. I had zero knowledge. But I would just come and look. Or sometimes just by watching, especially if it's something that you have a huge desire for, you stand to learn. So if you have that hunger to learn, and you continue to move around the spaces where people do what they do, you will find that you will see a range of, how can I put it? Let me just say, you can start from the grassroots all the way from the top. For example, let's say right now I can wear what I wear and then I move into different shops. I can go into shop right now, I can go into Checkers, I can go into Pick and Pay, I can go into Woolworths, just to try and understand why people are doing what they are doing and why people are willing to go to Woolworths and not ShopRite. Why people are willing to go to ShopRite and not Woolworths. And having started from that grassroots level, I then decided to go into the business. And then I started by buying the cheap equipment that I had with the little money that I had. I would buy one mic, one speaker, this and that, just to take off so that I can learn. So that's how I started that company. And then over the years, I started to become uncomfortable. So I did not settle for what I had achieved, but I decided to continue watching and learning. I would go to those big stages and I would look at the mics that they are using, and I would wonder, why are they using that mic and not this one that I bought? I can hear myself. This is let's say a 500 rand microphone. So why are these guys opting? Because when I would go and browse, I would just wonder, that curiosity. When I see this thing, most components have got names. Like that one, it's a Boss GT8. If you go onto Google, you simply Google and then you check what is the price of that. Why is he using it? What does it do? And then another day you're at another platform, you're checking, but that guy is using something that is even 10 times the value of what he's using. Why? And that curiosity is what drove me not to become too comfortable with what I had achieved. And when I started that business, I started with a certain clientele. And right now I can tell you that, for example, okay, let me just try to remember. I think some of the first mics that I bought, it was a set of 3. I bought it for, say, I think it was 650 rand or 700 rand. That was the first set of mics I bought. Right now, some of the average mics that are part of the stock, you find that you have got a 20,000 rand microphone. Those days, I had clients who were paying, let's say, someone just calls you, they don't even want to pay sometimes. They want you to just help them for free because you are growing. And of course, I would go there sometimes because I was also willing to learn and to just practice my art. And then over there, you'd find that from someone paying 1,000 rand, now I also now start to service clients that are willing to pay 10,000 rand for the same service where someone was paying 1,000 rand. There can be a client who is willing to pay 50,000 rand for what someone was willing to pay 10 rand for. 1,000 rand for, back in the days. Why? Was over the years, as I'm saying that I did not become comfortable, I started to shed some of the things that I started with. I would buy higher and higher quality. I kept on improving myself so that I would, in fact, I was aiming to achieve what these big companies were doing. Because most of whatever is happening in this industry is dominated by big companies, especially when it comes to sound equipment, especially when it comes to proper events. because these speakers are not the same. They don't sound the same. These microphones, they don't sound the same. So you find that those big companies, the reason why they get certain gigs, for example, the president can't come here and then they will use a cheap mic for 100 rand. Even now, this is a good quality microphone, just as an example. So whoever is going to book you as a company that supplies equipment, they are going to actually check what kind of microphones are you using. So normally when they are giving you your tech list, you actually describe the features of whatever you're using, because it's necessary. Even artists, there are artists who, when they are coming, they actually ask for certain mics. They ask for certain speakers. That's how it works. So musicians normally provide what they call a tech ride. So you find that when it's big artists, they will tell you that you need to get this kind of speaker, this kind of amp, this kind of guitar, this kind of keyboard, because they know the quality. And why are they doing that? It goes back to the branding that our previous speaker was talking about. Because for them, if they use a cheap mic, then they're not going to sound as good as they should. And then it affects them as a brand. So even myself now as a company, you'll find that I strive to provide the highest quality that I can. And I'm willing to go the extra mile to provide that quality. Why? Because there's a certain kind of clientele that I'm targeting. And that clientele is willing to pay whatever amount for that service because they can't get it anywhere else. And luckily, having started from that grassroots level, I created a balance now and said, there are these big companies, and then there are these guys who are at the grassroots. What if I'm somewhere here in the middle where I can actually now provide high quality equipment at a much fair price so that people understand that they need this kind of quality? But sometimes you never know what you need until you've tried it. You never know that there's a higher quality mic until you have used it. You think that things are normal if you're using what you're using. So I would go to clients, give them a good offer, give them an experience with the high quality equipment that I have, and then they would not be willing to go back to normal. They were now willing to improve themselves because of the quality that they've seen. So, and that's how I started to grow that business, and it kept on growing because of that. And trust me, it's only once that I've advertised my business. Some time back, that's when I've advertised. All the clients that I get now are based on recommendation. So this person will say, no, we know this person who does sound. And there are actually certain areas, for example, let's say the colored gospel artist in Utineg, for example, they can just say, you know what, we will not use any other company except for this company because he has demonstrated that he's the one who can only provide this kind of quality. So you actually start to now isolate certain niches of the market, and then you dominate. And then from there, what happens? You keep on growing. So now, in conclusion, you find that even as artists, you need to think of yourself as a brand, as mentioned earlier. And of course, you can't always expect wherever, because remember, you're just starting up, you're not a big artist yet. So let's say there's a stage that has been set, they've got the quality equipment that they have, maybe it's not quality enough to achieve what you want to achieve. But for your own growth, you must start to think of, can't I buy my own microphone that I can move around if I'm a singer, just as an example? Because there are artists who come with their own microphones. They'll say, you know what, I've got my own microphone. Can you please hook it up for me? This is the microphone that works for me. Because microphones are not the same. And it's something that you can buy as an individual. Even in a church. Because most churches are also struggling financially because you find that they've got many responsibilities when it comes to finances. Rentals, just as an example. So if it's praise and worship, backing vocalists can choose to buy their own mics to achieve a certain quality. And it's something that you take with you wherever you go. Let's say you decide to leave the ministry, then you go with your mic. But for the sake of achieving a certain quality, because now the congregation can't afford to buy the equipment up here. But as an artist, you can choose to bring your own guitar. You can choose to bring your own keyboard because you know what you want to achieve. And trust me, it's for your own good as well. Because a few months back, there was a debate on whether artists who are ministering in the church must get financial benefits or not. And you find that, remember when I said I became uncomfortable, sometimes it's about you becoming uncomfortable with where you are and strive for growth. Because you find that if yourself you are coming here and you keep on practicing with high quality equipment, of course, there are many arguments. Can you afford the keyboard? Can you not? But I mean, you can try with the little resources that you have and you keep on growing. You will get to a point where you play that keyboard such that someone will identify your quality and will be willing to take you out there. And people will be willing to invite you for other events. And that way, you start to grow, even financially, to a point where you might actually not have time anymore to come and minister here. Instead of crying for money that is being, your Sunday offerings. So if anything, let's capitalize on growing ourselves as brands, growing ourselves in terms of if we have any people who are doing our production, if we have any, let's say, audio engineers. So let's try to strive for quality. And that is also what separates us generally with white people. Not to be racist. But what I've noticed, because I work a lot with white people in this industry, and you find that they don't settle for mediocrity. They know what they want when it comes to quality. And as a black person, initially you find that they'll be skeptical on whether they will get what they're expecting from you because you're black. And even myself, back in the days, I used to be skeptical on whether I would be able to provide what they're expecting. But I got to a point now where, with the few that I started with, they would praise me, and then it kept on encouraging me that, no, you're actually doing something good. Because remember, I'm self-taught. And you find that now, because of word of mouth, that's how they keep businesses among themselves. Now once you get recommended, you will continue to work with more and more and more people. I work with a lot of colored people, especially when it comes to sound equipment, and it's based on recommendation. And you find that once you have penetrated those spaces, there's no way of going back. There's no turning back. You can only grow. Because whatever amount is going to come in, you are going to charge, let's say, times 10 what you'd normally charge. And whatever amount comes in, then you upgrade. You keep on upgrading your equipment. So with all of this, I'm just saying, let's strive for quality. You can have a brand, but if it's not quality enough, then it will mean nothing. Or you just settle for that level where you just keep on getting the peanuts that you are getting. So you should never get too comfortable. Keep on striving for growth. And that's why you have companies like Rolls-Royce who have a certain clientele and they are making money. You might find their annual turnovers are very, very high because of their clientele. And even some musicians, when it comes to recording, I would be surprised in the past when you would hear that this musician is leaving the country to go and record their music in another country. And I would wonder why. But a recording is a recording. Why can't they just... And I only started to understand these things having, joined the industry, especially in the recent years. That you can find that something as simple as, I'm just going to give this is the last example. Let's say we are recording vocals. So you can get a recording, let's say we call it an interface for that. Let's say some of the cheap ones, they go for as little as 1,000 rand. But on average, some of the ones that are out there, just the heart of where we record, they go for about 500,000 rands. One microphone goes for about 100,000 rands when you are recording in highly advanced studios. Because even with my work now, you find that now I have to go to Cape Town to do certain recordings and all that. And the quality of work that I'm recording, you find that I'm not recording it for a certain market, but for a certain market. And the market that I know that I'm doing my work for, they're very fussy about those small details. So with these words, I just want to thank you for giving me your ears, and I just want to continue to encourage you to try and grow.